Good, hello, welcome to Onion Skin. In this video I have a simple tutorial for you to how to create a vibration type effect. The theory behind it is very simple. Quite simply, moving an element from one extreme to the other, and every time it goes back, getting closer and closer together like so. And when you watch it back, it goes like that, yeah? So it's a very simple idea. There's lots of different ways to pull it off that are much easier than simply drawing it like this, because, you know, what if you have something a little bit more complicated? So say, for example, you have a pendulum looking thing like this, right? So I've put it inside of a peg or a symbol if you're using Flash. Placed its pivot point down at the bottom so it'll rotate like this, as ticking things tend to do. First keyframe, rotate to one side. Final keyframe, rotating to the other, giving a movement of this. Now that's not very vibration-y, but with one more keyframe placed facing directly up, because of course this is our finished spot, this space here of 0 to 20, go through and place a keyframe down every single one like so. Give yourself plenty of room because everything here is going to end up over here. So working our way across by cutting the frame from the most left and pasting it within our new section, then taking the one from this end, cutting and pasting it next to it, back to the left, to there, from the right, to there, from the left, to there. You see what I'm doing? Just continue to repeat this process, taking the frames from each of the two ends and replacing them in order. It's a bit of a repetitive action, but it's very quick to do. Shouldn't take more than 30 seconds or so, until finally you'll be left with this. Pretty cool. Now, in learning how movement works, can you tell what's going wrong here? It comes to a stop far too suddenly. So this time, the frames have been arranged with the one in the middle is in the center. I'm gonna open up the Set Ease for Multiple Parameters button here, and pull the time left and right ratios out to a factor of 60. Hitting apply, you'll see the chart change to this. And watching it play, you'll see it slows down and speeds up. Repeat the same steps as before. Putting keyframes into each one means we can now transport each of those positions to somewhere new. And repeat exactly what we'd done before. Cutting from the ends and pasting them from left to right. There we go. That looks much better. Here is a different variation of the same trick. Take the drawing and peg layer and go to duplicate selected layers. Place a keyframe down on each of the pegs so its upright position is locked, and towards the beginning of the timeline, place in another. On one of them, rotate it all the way to the left. On the other, rotate it all the way to the right. On each of these, create a pretty extreme ease once again. I'm gonna take it even further, pull it up to 80. So we get this, zoom, like that. And this time, only put a new keyframe down on every second frame, like this. Do it on both layers, and take the final keyframe of it standing completely upright, copy that, and paste it into every single one of the gaps across both layers. Have a look at this. A slightly different, but just as effective. And depends on the kind of result that you want, I suppose. Okay, for the last example, I've done a really bad drawing of a guitar, and yeah, it has the wrong amount of strings, whatever. The layers consist of one for just the backing, and one layer for each of the 5 strings. Now this is using Harmony Premium, which means it has access to curve deformers. Activating the rigging tool on each of the strings, I'm gonna place it in a bone by pulling from the right to left at one end and from left to right at the other. So they've got these nice Bezier curves sticking out. Gonna place one down on each of the strings respectively at the same length. Moving over to the free transform tool, which will allow me to animate these. Now pulling on each of the Bezier handles, I can change its shape accordingly. You can probably tell what's going to be happening next. On frame 10 of each of the bone deformers, placing down a keyframe and one down on frame 40 of each bone chain as well. On frame 11, gonna place down yet another one immediately after frame 10, of course. On frame 10 of each of these, I'm gonna pull its string up to, not quite that exaggerated, but bend them all up a bit. At approximately frame 25, place one down on each of them again, and I'm gonna do exactly the opposite. Pull them just down of their neutral position, creating this look. Yes. Not very believable strumming, but using the first example that we learnt, I'll be placing keyframes down on every single one of these frames. We can use a shortcut for this. By selecting the range gap between, keep an eye out on the timeline controls for this button here, called Create Keyframes On. Give that a press and change the every number of frames to 1. Press OK and bam, there we go. I'm going to repeat this for each of the bone layers. And now, well, you know the drill. Taking from each of the ends and placing them from left to right. And did you really think we'd need to go through the tedium of doing this for every other layer? No, no, no. In fact, we don't need any of these other strings. Delete them. And put the original deformation chain inside of a new peg. The 3 of these we're going to be duplicating 4 times. And for each of the pegs, go to a transform tool and just drag it up to its new position. It's important that you go to duplicate and not clone, because this creates a completely independent copy, so if you wish to change the timing or the artwork, it will allow you to do so. Oh, look at that. I have room for a 6th string after all. Now you can see what's a bit strange here. Having everything move in perfect unison is a bit distracting. This is easy enough because they are duplicates. You can move down each of these bone deformation chains and throw off the timing of them by just 1 frame each. And there we go. Vroom. Give it a try and experiment with different parameters to see what sort of scenarios you might be able to create or find applicable uses for this trick. So thanks for coming by, have some fun, and I'll see you in the next one.